Hey everybody, welcome back to C3 Students for our final week of our series Lost and Found, week 4 of our small groups. And I just want to give a quick shout out to you guys. I have been hearing from the other small group leaders that each week that you guys have just been doing awesome in your small groups. And I am so glad and excited that you guys are joining us this week. And if you're kind of new to the small groups, welcome. We're really excited that you have taken that step to come and be a part of these small groups, and we hope that you'll continue to take that next step in coming each week to be a part of these small groups because they really are an important part of our student ministry. And we hope that you are having this opportunity to connect with each other, connect with your small group leader. We want you to be having fun, but really ultimately, we want you to be growing in your faith and thinking about what that next step looks like for you as you develop your relationship with Jesus. Hey, real quick, as tonight's talk is a little bit longer, so we're going to keep this part a little shorter. But I just want to remind you of two quick things. One is Easter Sunday. C3 this year is hosting Easter at Ogilvy, and we would love for you and your family to come and join us. It's going to take place Sunday, April the 4th at Ogilvy at 10 a.m. It's an outdoor service. There's plenty of space for you to kind of spread out with your family. It's going to be an incredible service. We would love to have you come and to join us for Easter at Ogilvy. Now, it is an outdoor service, and of course with that comes the caveat that if there is bad weather, we will be moving everything back into C3. And so here's the best way for you to stay connected with what's happening. Obviously you want to go to the c3wheeling.com website. That's the home webpage for C3. There'll be information for our Easter service there. We want to make sure that you're checking out C3Studentswheeling.com. That's our official student website where you can come and get more information about all things student ministry there, but also information about Easter Sunday. And then lastly, if you're not following our texting service, you can do this real easily. It's free. It's just text the message C3 to the number 33222. And what happens is when Easter rolls around, if there are any changes to our services, we're going to let you know, not only on the website, not only on Facebook and social media, but we're going to let you know through that text message. So if you're not already subscribed, it's really a good thing for you to have. So you want to go ahead and text that message C3 to 33222. Okay, that's the first thing. Now the second thing is, like I said, we shared this last week. We've decided we're going to continue in our small groups through the end of April because small groups are happening right now. They're going really, really well. We want to keep them going really well. And so small groups will continue to the end of April. And then we'll take probably a week or two off, and then we're going to use that time to retool and get ready for our summer calendar. And what the summer calendar means is it's a chance for us to get together in person. We'll do some things at the building at C3. We'll do some things at Ogilvy. We'll do some things in some backyards. Anyhow, we're going to have our summer calendar ready to go for you in just a few weeks. And so we want to encourage you to be just getting excited about that. Maybe start thinking about some friends. Maybe you want to invite out to some of our new in-person things. It's going to be a lot of fun. And we think you guys are going to really enjoy being together over the course of the summer. So keep watching for that. Know that small groups are staying until the end of April, and then we'll get back to the in-person stuff a little later on in May and throughout the rest of the summer. All right, so those are our two quick reminders. I think it's time for us to get started. So tonight, like we did last week, we're going to worship at the end. But right now, I'm going to be right back with this week's message. Hey everybody, got a question for you this week as we get started. And the question is this: have you ever eaten something that was bitter? Have you ever eaten something that you tasted it and it just tasted bitter? You know, there are all sorts of different foods with different flavors, and one of the cool things that God's given us is the ability to taste. And so sometimes we try food and it might come across as sweet or salty, or maybe we'll eat something and it'll be a little more sour or spicy. But sometimes we eat food and that taste, that flavor, what we taste in our mouth, it tastes bitter. Now, some people like that bitter taste. Some people don't like that bitter taste. But it's an interesting kind of factoid for us just to think about here, because I think this is kind of a cool thing for us to recognize. But did you know that how you respond to flavors, sweet, sour, salty, spicy, bitter, how we respond to those different tastes is actually related to our genes. No, not those genes, these genes. Yeah, it's something about how we are wired, how God has created us. In fact, about 25% of people have special taste receptors in their mouths that are extra sensitive to the taste of bitter foods. So if you're one that kind of responds maybe kind of violently towards bitter foods, like you're really kind of grossed out by them, you might be one of those folks that have those extra sensitive or those special taste receptacles that kind of cause things to be bitter. When it comes to bitterness, not only is it that we have to worry about what something tastes like something that tastes bitter, but there's also an emotion, a feeling of bitterness. And that leads me to our second question for tonight. And that question is this: have you ever felt bitter towards someone else? Now, I think we need to define what that means. What does it mean to be bitter towards someone else? Well, I think a real simple definition is, we could be angry, we could be hurt or resentful towards somebody else. Maybe they did something that kind of left a bad taste in our mouth. They were just they just treated us poorly or unfairly, or something happened around us. We get bitter towards someone else. Now, if you remember from last week, Allison kicked off last week's message, and she talked about the parable or the story that Jesus told of the son who left home and then came back. There was a rich man who had two sons, and at some point the younger son came to the father and said, "Give me what's mine now." And the father did. And so then that son took off and he went to distant lands, and while he was in these distant lands, he wasn't super wise with his money. He spent it on crazy living, partying, hanging out. He got lots of friends because he had a pretty good size of money to spend. But eventually, all that money ran out, and with that was the partying and the fun and the friends. And this younger son found himself alone, without any money, without a job, and so he finds a job feeding pigs, and then whatever was left over was kind of what he was left with. And so he said, if I go back to my father's house and if I tell them that I've sinned against him and his house, I'm no longer worthy to be called your son, but let me come and be a servant. He thought, well, I can at least go back and I can work for my father, and then by working for him, I would have a better living situation, and I would at least be able to get to eat because his father took good care of his servants. Well, we saw last week that the son goes back to the father, and as he goes back to the father sees him and he runs out to him. So the father's response to his son coming back was, let's celebrate this. This is exciting. My son who was missing, who was gone, he's been found, and we're going to celebrate. And he threw for his son this huge party. What about the older brother? And let's follow and learn what the older son does. He says this: "Now the older son was in the field, and as he came and drew near to the house, he heard music and dancing. And he called to one of the servants and asked what these things meant. And the servant said to him, your brother has come, and your father has killed the fattened calf, because he has received him back safe and sound. But he was angry," he being the older brother, the older son. "He was angry, and he refused to go in. So his father came out, and he invited him. But he answered his father, saying, Look, these many years I have served you. I never disobeyed your command. Yet you never gave me a young goat that I might celebrate with my friends. But when this son of yours came, who has devoured your property with prostitutes, you killed the fatted calf for him." And so he said to him, this is the father now speaking to his son. The father said to his son, "Son, you are always with me, and all that is mine is yours. It was fitting to celebrate and to be glad, for your brother was dead and is alive. He was lost and he is found." So what's going on here? Well, the older brother comes back in from the fields and he sees what's going on, and he's not happy with what he sees. His dad came out and said, "Your brother's home. This is a good thing. We want to celebrate the fact that your brother is home." But the older son, he's just so bitter by all of this, so angry and frustrated. He gives this laundry list of reasons why, he's feeling the way he's feeling. He says, "I have been here, I've worked hard, I've listened and done all the things that you've told me to do, I've obeyed all of your commandments, I've done everything that was right, but you never gave me a goat, and you never threw me a party, but yet here you have my brother who's gone out and totally threw away his money, lived a crazy life. Well, he comes back, and now, you throw this party? It's not fair. It's not fair." And so that kind of leads me to ask the question, how many of us have ever been in that situation? I mean, at some point, I'm sure all of us have been in that place where something has happened to us where we thought, that's just not right. I mean, maybe you're on a sports team, and you see, there's a player on your team that, maybe doesn't try as hard, or maybe has missed more practices than you, or maybe isn't as talented as you are. And so you think, why is it that they get to start the game? Why are they getting more playing time than me? I'm at every practice. I practice at home. I work hard. I give my 110%, and I don't get enough playing time. And you kind of feel that bitterness. And so this is the older brother. He's in that place where he sees something happen and he says, "It's not fair." But look what the father does. The father comes out to the older son and he invites him to come into the party. And he says, this is a joyous occasion. We should celebrate. So, I know you've been a great son, and everything I have it's going to be yours, but come and be a part of this celebrating, because the fact that your brother is here, that's a good thing, and we want to celebrate that. Now, if we remember last week, what we saw in what Jesus was saying, he was speaking to the Pharisees, and the thing that he wanted them to see is that it doesn't really matter how far we go. Jesus is always going to welcome us back. And so with the younger son, he goes off and he lives this crazy life and does all of these wild things, and he comes back broken, and he comes back repentant, and he comes back seeking his father's approval. And what we learned from that was that Jesus is always going to welcome us back. This was something that the Pharisees struggled with. They had a hard time seeing people because what they saw in them was their sin, and they lacked compassion, and they lacked the ability to just love them where they are. And so Jesus was saying, hey, this is how it works. You need to extend to them compassion and grace and love, and you need to be like the Father, and we need to welcome them back. But with this week's story, Jesus wants to emphasize something else about the Pharisees. And it's like that for them, they're very much like this older son. They have lived their lives to do everything by the book. They've worked hard to obey the laws. They've applied their lives to this idea that they have to be good and right. And so the Pharisees kind of live and they say, we've done all of these things. We follow the laws. We've obeyed the commandments. And now you're telling us that we're wrong? But they were. And so what Jesus was kind of zoning in on was the fact that these Pharisees were a lot like this older brother who was filled with judgment and bitterness and anger and selfishness. And I think one of the things that we see in this is that there is a choice for us. The story ends kind of in a weird way. We have this invitation that the father gives to the older son, but we really don't know what the older son chose to do. Does he go into the party, or does he stay outside and wrestle with his anger and his bitterness? Well, I think that's because what we kind of see Jesus doing is leaving the Pharisees and ultimately us with that very same question. Here's the invitation to come in and be a part of what God is doing. And now your choice is, do you want to accept the invitation, or do you want to just kind of miss the party and be stuck in that bitterness and that anger? God's invitation is this, that you choose God. Know that He will always welcome you back, and He invites you now to join the party. And really, this is the point of the gospel message. It doesn't matter where we are, what we've done, who we are. He welcomes us. He invites us to be part of His family. And tonight, that's something you guys can be talking a little bit more about with your small group leaders. Or if you want, reach out, give me a call, and we'll get coffee. And we'll talk a little bit more about what it looks like to accept this invitation that Jesus gives us to join the party. All right, have a great night with your small groups. Talk it up, answer the questions, and I hope tonight you would choose to accept this invitation.
It was my team.
Okay, welcome back everyone. Thank you, Allison, for closing our time out in worship. Guys, I'm not gonna carry this out much longer. I want you to get into small groups. I want you to start talking about tonight's lesson. So without any further ado, we will see you next Tuesday right back here at small groups. Until then, enjoy your time tonight with your small group and have a great week. We'll see you next Tuesday.